Hello, everybody. Welcome to Coach's Corner, where all the good experiences and knowledge and tons of lovely stories that are shared. But this is very, very valuable knowledge that you can basically utilize for the rest of your life. And today, I'm so excited to talk about this. This is one of my favorites. I never knew about this particular author, but we'll dive deep here, I'm sure. And without further ado, my name is Jamel Matias. I'm a certified mindset success coach. My brand is Believe in the Unseen, basically believing in that goal, believing in yourself, and I help guide you to your desire. And my purpose is to reveal the potential that's already there and guide you to your truest desires. I help individuals, businesses, and entrepreneurs as well with whatever milestones that you want. I'm in the Maryland area. We've been having storms, but that's all necessary, especially when growth is required. So I'll pass it to my amazing colleague, Lou.
Well, hello everyone. It feels so weird to be able to move my hands without, because I have a real background now. So it feels funny just to be able to move my hands around. But welcome everyone. My name is Lou Perica. I am a certified mindset coach as well. And I help women who really want more out of life, but without the guilt, without the frustration, without the hustle and grind, by shifting the way they think so they can be, do, and have the life of prosperity and fulfillment that they desire. I'm located in the Maine area, and I'm excited to be back. I was gone for a week or so, and Alicia is on the road, so she won't be joining us. So we wish Alicia happy and safe travels, and I will hand it over to my colleague Paul.
Thank you, Lou, and thank you, Jamel. My name is Paul Wooters. I'm in Burlington, Ontario. I'm a Proctor Gallagher consultant. I'm an author, speaker, adventure traveler, but it always wasn't like this. I was setting goals, I was engaged in positive thinking, but the results weren't matching. And so now I've devoted myself to helping you create the life that you want, helping you achieve those most elusive personal and professional goals and to live to your greatest possibilities using this fantastic transformational program that our mentor, Bob Proctor, created. Jamel.
Awesome, guys. Awesome. I'm really excited because this particular author, Thomas Troward,
Mm.
hits to the core of so many deep things. And this one page article that we all study to a great degree has so much in it. What was the other one that was really short that had so much in it? I forgot which article that was. Do you
Um,
recall anybody here?
Something yourself. Is it yourself?
Two brushstrokes. That was short.
Wow. Yeah, they're both good ones, right? But there was one that had so much in it, and it was one page like this. I think Lou, yeah, I think that was the one. But we'll recall back. But for those that are tuning in live, make sure you drop some comments and questions here because once we dive into this material, we definitely want to hear from you. And that way we can help you with this and also adapt it to whatever circumstance or goal that you have. Right. And we talk a lot about, you know, people allowing circumstances to dictate where they go in life and what they achieve. And this right here, the spirit of opulence.
Mm.
Listen to that title. We're going to just dive right in. So I'll ask my amazing colleagues here. Have you ever heard of Thomas Troward before, doing this profession, being a consultant?
Not I.
I
When
had
Bob introduced us to Thomas Troward, and I got his book, and I think it's his like 7 lectures, and the book is like this thick. I don't even know. Oh, it's right behind me. And the first time I was reading one of the lectures, it was going shoo, shoo, right over my head. And there's a lot of these and thous. But now, when I read it now, one of the lectures, this is when you start to really notice your growth, because now when I read it with more ease, but such a deep understanding. But it took a while. It took a lot of study to understand who I was in my mind and the law of mind. But when I first started reading, and everyone kept saying it's a tough read. Thomas Troward's work is definitely a tough read. So I feel that I've graduated now that I could read probably any one of his lectures and get the meaning and the understanding of the message that he was trying to convey.
I love it, Paul.
Yeah, no, I have to agree that it was, it was said by some other people that, hey, this is pretty deep stuff, and it is. But you really have to take it and digest it, like sentence by sentence, almost, and paragraph by paragraph. At least I did. I read it, and I would have, okay, read that over again and read that over again. But that was really good, because Bob always encouraged us to really not just read something, but to actually study it. And this, Troward stuff really requires some careful study and some careful analysis. And okay, I really got to digest this paragraph in some of his books. I mean, you'll look at this as a small article, and you read through it, and I'll read a paragraph, and I'll read that paragraph over again, maybe 4 or 5 times, to really grasp what it is he's saying. But it is, as Lou said, it's so good, it's so meaningful, and then all of a sudden, boom, something clicks, and it's like, yeah, now I get that now. I understand that, and it's things that you can take and apply to your everyday life, which is so rewarding. But I mean, that's the real gift.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, when I first started reading Thomas Troward, I was like, what the heck is this? Right? And what Bob shares a lot, that most people have been conditioned during education, going to school, growing up, that you read a book, you remember it, you get graded for it, you get rewarded, right? So that's how we've been conditioned to learn. And both Lou and Paul touched on that, right? So we get the book, oh, I read it, let's put it down, next book, right? Well, I read this chapter, now here, we have a test on what we can remember. Here, the true essence of education is reading the same thing over and over and over again, the repetition, right? So, and I always remember this quote: is the book in you, or is it on the shelf? It has to be a part of your subconscious, the essence of who you are. And really thinking about reading this over and over and over, it's you start to see things and you're like, I didn't see that before. So, and when you reread it, it's like, it's not that it wasn't there before, it's something that you see in yourself that wasn't there before. Basically, it's always been there, but it's kind of revealing it, right? So it's so awesome to read this. So let's dive in a little bit and break some of this down. I'm excited. Hopefully I'm not the only one, because this one sentence alone can be entire. So let me share my screen right off the top here. I'm looking at all these things that have underlined in this article. And I remember where I was when I first read it, and I know where I am now. Imagine, a year from now. So the spirit of opulence, right? My screen should be sharing. Yeah, let's zoom in a little bit more. So right off the top here, if we clearly realize that the creative power in ourselves is unlimited, then there is no reason for limiting the extent to which we may enjoy what we can create by means of it. So I have here, ourselves is unlimited. Does that speak to anyone here?
Well, yeah, first of all, we have to really understand who ourselves are or is. Right? We read, and this is what these calls are about, is helping you understand the power within you that is guiding and directing you, or us, right? All the time. We never walk alone, and this is what it means. I also wanted to just, because many times we think of opulence as wealth, as affluence, good fortune, but it's really about abundance. It's how you think of the word opulence. And I used to think it meant very wealthy, right? And only celebrities lived this way. But I never really understood that opulence is really abundance. It's about the law of circulation. And this is another thing that I learned from Bob is how to study. So if I didn't really understand a word in a sentence or the paragraph, I would actually look it up. I never did that before. I would just kind of, brush over it and then try to gather the meaning as I went along. But now I actually look up the words. So I think understanding that the power is in ourselves and it is unlimited. There is a spirit, there is a divine essence within us that wants to express itself, its greatness, but we're the vehicle that it's using to express itself. So this is why when you get that spark, that desire for something, where did that idea come from? Like, where did it come from? It just came from out of the air, right? We can't touch a thought. So where does that thought come from? That is that divine essence within us. So it's always wanting to express itself. So that divine power, there it is in all places at all times. It cannot be created nor destroyed, right? Knows everything that ever was or ever will be, but that power, that spirit is within us. So when we think, let's try to start thinking abundance instead of lack and scarcity, because it's our own human thinking that is restricting this power, this spirit within us. Because when you think about it, like a blueberry or a rose, like a blueberry bush doesn't have one blueberry, it has hundreds of thousands of blueberries. A rose bush doesn't have just one rose. It has many, thousands of or hundreds of roses. When we breathe air, we don't have to worry that there's not enough oxygen. So there is abundance everywhere, but we've been so conditioned to think of just what we're conditioned to in our environment, right? The limitations in our environment and the limitations that we've been programmed with. So again, the more you get to understand who you are and this power that resides within us, the more opulent you'll understand how life is. That was a little wordy, wasn't it, Paul?
Well,
No,
you had a
not at all, really. Not at all, Lou, because I think it was really good that you touched on, okay, what is opulence? Like, what is that? What do we visualize? What do we think about when that word comes out? And opulence, yeah, to me also, right? That was always extravagance, riches, material things, like, seeing palaces and people with great wealth and just like, an overabundance of material things, right? So I'm really glad that you started off with that, Lou. And what Troward is saying here is that, as Lou said, he's teaching us that abundance is a state of mind, and it's rooted in alignment with the creative spirit of the universe, right? He's explaining that true wealth, that real wealth, isn't just material. It's not material stuff, but it's this natural expression of the life, that divine life, that life force that's flowing to and through us. And he's really, yeah, I think there's a great emphasis here on and the importance of cultivating, and that's what we're helping people do. We have to cultivate that mindset of abundance rather than scarcity. And Lou and I were talking a bit about this before we hopped on here, how people, you'll notice in their speech and the way they talk and the way they talk about things, they really have a mindset of scarcity. And so Troward is stating or arguing here that the true wealth begins in your mind, and that by thinking thinking generously and acting from a place of abundance, that we can align ourselves with the universal laws that attract prosperity, so that we're on that same frequency, that we're going to attract that which we think about.
Yes.
Yes, yes. You know, thoughts become things. Like, really let that dive in, because that thinking stuff is one of the most powerful things in the universe. And a lot of times our thinking is all over the place. Doubting yourself, not knowing exactly what you want, or even getting emotionally involved with what you want. We're allowing outside circumstances and other people's consciousness to even dictate what we think. You can put whatever you want in your mind. You can accept or reject any thoughts in your conscious mind. So I had to run and get my stick figure, because when we're talking about spirit of opulence, this is huge. A lot of our thinking, you can either put dreams here, or you can allow all those sensory things in the outside world affect what goes here. And here is the richness. You know, when I read that, Troward's talking about richness, our own richness in the subconscious mind. And this is connected to infinite intelligence. The question is, are you aware of that first? Do you have an understanding of that? Because once you start understanding it, you're able to tap into the frequency that Paul mentioned, the frequency of your higher self, of who you're meant to be, your true self, actually. So let me share as we continue the next section here, because this dives right into what we're talking about here. Troward says, where we are drawing from the infinite, we need never be afraid of taking more than our share. That is not where the danger lies. The danger is in not sufficiently realizing our own richness, and in looking upon the externalized products of our creative power as being the true riches, instead of the creative power of spirit itself. That is massive. So what is spirit? You know, there's two different ways to describe it: theology and science. Science calls it energy, and theology basically spirit or God, right? Or Allah, whatever religious background. So, you know, what he's saying here, don't be afraid to draw from the richness that is infinite for you. A lot of us think, oh, I got to hurry up and get this before the next person. That's a competitive mindset. And the science of getting rich, Wallace Waddle talked about competitive versus creative. And competitive, obvious, well, I wouldn't say obvious because not many people know that, but competitive basically is working from a lack mindset, which ends up, you know, being limited or ending. Creative, you have unlimited potential. We all do, whether you know this or not, whether you're aware of it or not. You have infinite from riches. So he said that is not where the danger lies. The danger is not sufficiently realizing our own riches. So, you know, before Thomas Troward, before all, I just felt a richness, but I didn't know it like this now. I did not know it. Like, I walk around having a high awareness of myself every day. I'm tapping into this material, and also being around environment like our colleagues here, you know, and other Proctor Gallagher consultants and other leaders, and, you know, people that have been doing this for a while. You know, you're tapping into their understanding of awareness, their belief in themselves and the world, and their belief in us. So this really tells you to understand your own richness. If you don't, our call links are in the description of this call, because, you know, once you start really understanding this, of course, we would love to help you with it. You know, once you understand your own richness, this is where it starts, right? Am I the only one that kind of is aware of that right now? Because once you start understanding this even more, doesn't your whole vibrational system shift a little bit?
It's always shifting. I was just sharing, I think, Paul, when we were off screen, I was sharing with Paul, I can always feel a new shift coming on. And what I've also realized is when I go through a new challenge, I understand I'm being prepared for something greater. So now before I'd be like, oh, this is happening, or I feel stuck, or this is, now I look at it and say, oh, this is interesting. This
Mm.
is really interesting. I'm being prepared for something greater. So challenges will get bigger. So the bigger I dream, the bigger the challenges are going to be. Right. But I loved this is I love this part when troward says the danger is not in not sufficiently realizing our own richness and in looking upon the externalized products of our creative power as being the true riches instead of the creative power of spirit itself. So in other words, you look at a tree, you look at a bird, you look at a building, you look at a bridge, you look at the ocean, and you're in awe, right? You look at your iPhone or your, it's like, wow, this is really great. This is amazing, right? All of your external things, you look at it and you go, wow, that's beautiful or that's incredible. And that's how I used to look at things. But Troward has me look at the power behind it. So I'm not looking at a tree now as just being a tree. I look at the power and the purpose of the tree and why it was created and who or what created it. So I look at the power behind the beauty of things, right? And it could be a car. Let's just say, because I love cars and I see this fabulous car and you give credit to the designers, right? But it's really the people that designed the car, the people that engineered the car, the people that fabricated the car are all working with that one power behind it all, right? That power is using the human as a vehicle. So this is what that statement is saying, to look at your external things, but look at the power behind it that created it. That really, that was a huge shift for me, because I used to, if I'd sat in my car, and I would do this with prospects or clients, if they're talking to me from their car, so just look out your window. What do you see? Telephone poles, maybe a squirrel going by, maybe some traffic lights. Just look at them, and you probably never really gave much thought. But I said, I want you to now look at them differently. Look at look at that telephone pole. It may have been an eyesore to you, just looking at it. But think about how that telephone pole is keeping us all connected to one another. Right? So you shift your perspective. I know, Jamel, you love like perception, right? So you shift your perspective and you realize, wow, that telephone pole, whether it's pretty or ugly, it doesn't really matter. But when you look at the purpose of it and then the power behind it that's created it using humans, using the mouth, the ears, the hands to create this, but it's always the same power behind everything that is created. So that's when, with that particular sentence, was a big eye opener for me, because now I look at the power behind it all. But it can be very challenging because there's so many bells and whistles and look at me, look at this, and everything's, just doing a simple video, it's like Hollywood style, right? Everyone has these amazing videos and people are jumping off of buildings, like, wow. But you can get mesmerized by that. But it's really the power behind it that's creating everything. And it's expressing itself through humans. It's expressing its greatness through humans. So always, that's what I do. I always try to be very mindful of the power behind everything. And I know that power is within me.
You know what, Lou? I love that you pulled that sentence out. I love, and I'm going to repeat it. It's really good because I'm going to tie it to something else. So that sentence that Lou just talked about, right? The danger is not in sufficiently realizing our own richness and in looking upon the externalized products of our creative power as being the true riches, instead of the creative power of spirit itself. And so why that really jumped out at me is there's another book and another author, Eckhart Tolle, and he wrote a book, The Power of Now. And I extracted a paragraph that he wrote in his book that I really thought tied in to that sentence, because that sentence jumped out and I thought, there's something else. And I had to recall, I thought, oh yes, The Power of Now, which I've read many, many times. And so I pulled out this paragraph, which I thought was in alignment with this statement. And here's what Eckhart Tolle said. He said that many people are waiting for prosperity. It cannot come in the future. When you honor, acknowledge, and fully accept your present reality, where you are, who you are, what you're doing right now, when you fully accept what you've got, you're grateful for what you've got, you're grateful for what is, and you are grateful for being. And that gratitude for the present moment and the fullness of life now is true prosperity, right? That's true prosperity. So you have abundance. It cannot come in the future. In time, the prosperity will manifest for you in various ways. So not just in material ways, or not just in money, but in various ways. We are rich in so many ways. And I just that sentence, I looked at this whole paragraph, I looked at that sentence, and I thought, well, that really relates to something I've read somewhere else. And then I had to flip through Eckhart Tolle's book and I pulled that out. And I just thought that really corresponded with that statement.
Oh, wow. I love it. And I'm glad I stopped there because I knew you both had a lot of value in that last sentence. It worked perfectly. I knew it. So, yeah, there's so much said there, and that sentence there, and looking upon the externalized products, Lou was mentioning, I like to look at the spirit behind it. And she knew what I was thinking, perception, right? And I like to look at things, the spirit around it. It's pretty much the same thing. We're saying the same thing. And I'll look at anything. I'll look around and see spirit all around me. And everybody can do this. This is when you start becoming more aware of yourself and the essence of who we are. You'll start seeing things differently and hearing differently, coming from, I wouldn't say the chakras and all that. I won't get into that, but it's more like you just see differently, not just with your eyes. You see it in a heightened sense. And, when I see the little toys my daughter has that she's going to town with back there, I see the person's childhood mindset developing it for kids to be. So I see around it. And when I start reading troward, I start seeing different. It's funny rereading this, today, I see different again. So this is why mentorship is vital, because you're tapping into the highest version of yourself and who you're meant to be. And you can use this to create whatever you want once you really let it dive in. So let's continue here in the article, because he talks a little bit more about that. So let me share my screen here. This is so good. I told you, everybody, this is going to be amazing. So drop some comments. So he says here, if we avoid this error, basically seeing riches in objects, right, rather than the creative spirit, if we avoid this error, there is no need to limit ourselves in taking what we will from the infinite storehouse. All things are yours. And I pause there. All things are yours. And the way to avoid this error is by realizing that the true wealth is in identifying ourselves with the spirit of opulence. We must be opulent in our thought. Huge. Do not think money as such, for it is only one means of opulence, but think opulence, that is, largely, generously, liberally, and you will find that the means of realizing this thought will flow to you from all quarters, whether as money or as 100 other things not to be reckoned in cash.
Mm.
Massive. The big thing I got out of that, right? We must be opulent in our thought.
Yeah. Everything is a state of mind when you think of it, right?
Yeah.
Opulence is a state of mind. Success is a state of mind. Prosperity is a state of mind. Happiness, joy, depression, all of these are states of mind. And this is why mindset really, it's the law of mind. I was on a call the other day, and we went into these breakout rooms, and we all introduced ourselves, and the woman says, "Oh yeah, mindset. I teach a little of that. We talk about that in my program." And I giggled to myself because that's how the majority of people treat mindset, as just a little something, a little added value, without understanding everything is law of mind. So when we are born, I remember hearing one of the consultants saying, when we're born, when we take our first breath, that is spirit entering us. And when we transition over and take our last breath, that is spirit leaving. But as soon as we are born tapping into infinite intelligence. We're born with the mind of spirit in us. This is why we have the ability to think. And what does Bob say? He talks about Albert Einstein. They have his brain in a jar somewhere in, I don't know, New Jersey or Philadelphia, but it's no good because Albert is not with it. So when you start to understand the power of mind, everything comes from infinite intelligence. And I love that you used the phrase thinking stuff. I love that phrase, thinking stuff, right? Out of Science of Getting Rich. Because really that's what it is thinking this thinking stuff. It goes from a no thing to something. And this is all about really about the law of circulation too, because when you think abundantly, when you think opulently, you are more willing and freeing. You give more generously. That's what I want to say. You give more generously. So Bob always taught us to give generously and receive graciously. That was one of the things that I still have to remind myself to receive graciously, because giving was easy for me, but receiving was not, because that was self-worth that was kicking in, right? I wanted to give, maybe to be, you wanted love, right? You wanted to be approved. So giving came more naturally for me, because probably I wanted to be loved more or accepted, but receiving was uncomfortable. But when I started to understand that this law of circulation, it's about giving, it's about receiving, and the more you give, the more you receive. This is why we say, if you want to earn more money, if you want a loving relationship, if you want to be more happy, you must be and give these things first. You must give these things first, because what you put out, you will receive back. When you plant a tomato seed, you are going to receive a tomato. You're not going to receive a carrot. So be mindful of what you're putting out there, what you are giving, but give from the heart, knowing that this is all about the law of circulation. This is how everything works, and how keeping everything in flow. When you go to a doctor, they take your pulse and your blood pressure to see the circulation, how everything is flowing in your body for a state of health. The same thing with money. I used to hold on tightly to money, but now I understand It needs to be circulated. It is no good if it's going to just hide underneath my mattress. It has no value until it's circulated. And this is why, a lot of times when you have that mindset of lack and scarcity, and your friends call you up and say, hey, let's go out for dinner. Geez, no, things are a little tight right now. I'm not going to. I'll go out, whatever, next month or something. But when you hold back, think about the ripple effect. You don't go out to dinner. Think about how the ripple effect is, right? The restaurant owner, the wait staff, the food service people, the bankers that have the mortgage on that business, etc. There is such an enormous ripple effect by one person not going out to eat to whatever, spend $50 or $100. There's an enormous ripple effect. So it's all about keeping things in flow, circulation, circulation. And this is what opulence is about. It's to keep it circulating. Everyone benefits. When I go out to dinner, if I buy a pair of shoes or whatever I'm going to circulate my money with, everyone will benefit in one way or another. It just goes through the whole system.
Wow, Lou, there's two things you said that really jumped out, and one was that thing that Bob said. I heard it from Bob first too. To give generously and accept graciously. I mean, that stuck with me as well ever since I first heard that way back when from Bob. And the other is the law of circulation. That was really good too, because what Troward is saying here is that we experience prosperity when we live with an open hand. That is, giving freely, thinking, generously, right? And trusting that the supply of goods infinite, right? There's not a lack or limitation. That's just something in our own minds that we have, that lack and limitation. The universe is abundant. There's no lack in the universe. And also that clinging to money, like, stuffing money under your mattress. It's no good under there. It's worth nothing. So Troward is saying, like, clinging to money or living in that fear of lack, it actually repels abundance. And when we act in this spirit of opulence, we are freely sharing, freely giving. We're counting we're acknowledging our blessings and blessing others, and our expectation is good, that good is going to come to me. Mm-hmm. And now we're harmonizing with that law of circulation, and we're opening ourselves to even greater riches, both material and spiritually, not just in a material sense. And he's also saying that, hey, don't confuse this with reckless spending, but calm, confident attitude that trusts that continual flow, that trusts that continual supply of infinite supply that's in the universe. So I love that you brought up those two things.
Yeah, this is so good, because it's reminding me a lot of Neville Goddard's teachings as well. He talks about being in the wish fulfilled. So when you're giving money or tithing, you're basically becoming what you want to be, right? Because I have the money to give. You're being. Remember, be, do, have, right? So you're becoming that wealthy person. Let's just talk about money. Let's say, whatever amount that you want, giving it, you're announcing that you're already there. So being in the wish fulfilled, you're matching that frequency of that millionaire you want to be, or that multiple six figures that you want, or whatever money mark that your mindset is set at, right? So, we're talking a lot about circulation, and I wanted to read that paragraph as well. It's worded pretty deeply, but this is right on topic, right? So I want everyone here and those that watch the replay get the most value as possible. And of course, the value doesn't stop here. All our call links are in the description of whatever platform you're watching this. and set up a call with us so we can talk about this and the goals that, you may have been stuck with, right? And getting a better understanding is so essential. So he says here, we must not make ourselves dependent on any particular form of wealth or insist on its coming to us through some particular channel. Right there, a lot of us think we just earn income just through our jobs or our professions. There's different forms of income, right? There's tangible and intangible. And there's other ways of earning income that you may not even be consciously aware. So I just wanted to mention that, right?
Mhm.
So that is at once to impose a what? A limitation. This is where limiting beliefs come in, and you hold on to them your whole life and wonder why, money's not coming in different ways. So, and to shut out other forms of wealth and to close other channels, what I just mentioned. But we must enter into the spirit of it. Now, the spirit is life. And throughout the universe, life ultimately consists in circulation, whether within the physical body of the individual or on the scale of the entire solar system. And circulation means a continual flowing around. The spirit of opulence is no exception to this universal flow of all life. That is quite a mouthful in that paragraph, but I really wanted to share that here because I know somebody needed to hear that. And we get so limited in our thinkings about where wealth comes from, what wealth is, what spirit is, and we forget about circulation. We forget about other people, even on a so-called small scale of giving somebody a smile or opening a door for someone or giving someone a compliment. This is part of the solar system circulation. It's all one. And being in full awareness of it, you can create whatever you want with this knowledge. So yeah, there was a lot shared there. Anybody want to tap into some of that?
Why don't you go ahead, Paul? I've always been jumping in.
I was waiting to say something really insightful. No, like Jamel said, that there is a lot there, right? And really, it's talking about that. Ultimately, we're talking about this. Keeping things in circulation, and so really, he's discouraging. This hoarding that we're talking about, or fearful thinking about money, or fearful thinking about lack, because those attitudes or that way of thinking, well, is really going to block that natural flow of abundance, right? It's going to stop the circulation. It's going to cut it off. Instead, he's encouraging here, faith and generosity and confident expectation. When you're giving, and have this confident expectation, and those are the real key elements of the rich and fulfilling life that we're really, really seeking. And again, it's as we said from the beginning, that is a state of mind, and which we really have to adopt. And it just doesn't come from reading a book once, or reading something, or saying something, or saying an affirmation. It's really has to be done through spaced repetition, because we've been programmed for so many years. And so if you want to reprogram something, you have to really upload new material that you're really going to grasp and get a hold of.
I was thinking, Paul, you had mentioned something, and really, when you think about this, we probably the biggest things that we have fear about, or a couple of them anyways, is money and time, right? We always feel that we don't have enough. Where did those beliefs, where did that thinking come from? Where did it come from? So as you think about it, you start off as a baby, a child, and young adult, and little by little, that money thinking, the lack of money, not having enough, being, you must have a good education. You have to have a good job. You have to be, all of a sudden, money becomes our master. It starts controlling us, but it's really never about the money. It isn't the dollar amount. It's what we think the money will do for us. So if we could live this fabulous life, right? Maybe in our mind, that fabulous life might be, I don't know, $10 million for an example. I don't know, right? But what if you could live that fabulous life for much less? It's about the feeling of experiencing something. It's really not necessarily the dollar amount. It's what we think the money will do for us. But if you want to live this opulent lifestyle, if it is, in fact, cars and homes for you, you can still experience that. That's why you have an imagination. Just think about, you may earn X amount of dollars, right? And you may think it's not enough. But someone who comes from a different country, who's living in a different country, whose children have to walk 8 miles to get some water, contaminated water in a bucket, the income that you're earning right now is $10 million to them. It's not enough for you, perhaps, in your mind, right? Your state of mind, but to someone else, it would be, because their perception of what a good life is, what opulence is, what abundance is. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just how you perceive something. And again, Jamel, when I say that word, you always pop into my mind, because I think we can all agree it's our perception. So when we want to lean into faith, that we believe something can happen and will happen and already has happened, when we lean into faith, we need to consult not with our 5 senses, but with the spirit within us, which is perfection. There is perfection that lies within each and every one of us. And when we are out of alignment, this is when we go into scarcity. We go into fear. We go into not feeling like we're enough. It means you're out of alignment with the perfection that lies within you. And that perfection within each and every one of us is abundance. It's love. It's joy. And that's why babies are always happy. They're always joyful. They're always curious. They're risk takers. They're confident. And then what happens as they get older? That gets diluted. It starts to dissipate and it starts to leave them. And now we're filled with fear. There's not enough. There's not enough. And this is when you have to believe, you have to have faith and take action as if. This is true faith. That's what true faith is. Taking action even though you don't see the results now. You don't even know the hows, but you believe. And this is how all great things happen. Anyone that's ever achieved anything, they didn't know the hows, they didn't know the plans, but they believed, and they were working with the higher power, whether they knew that or not, or they consciously knew that or not. But we are all working with a power, and it's not marketing and it's not technology. Those are definitely tools, but we're working with a power beyond all of that. And once you tap into that and fully embrace that and understand that, life just becomes easier. It can be easier because you're going to shift your state of mind from lack to abundance or to opulence. But it's how you see it. It's how you perceive it.
Amen.
Give me an amen.
Amen. Speaking of, opulence, let this call really wake you up to your unlimited potential and you tapping into this opulence. The energy that's been given on this live stream is raising your vibrational state and your awareness of self.
Mm.
It's a wonderful conversation, but don't let it stop there. Don't let it stop there. You want to be like this the rest of your life from this point on and adapt to this material. This is very serious to understand. Otherwise, you'll get the same results and you'll remain in the same vibrational state and frequency. You both shared so much, and there was something that spoke to me. Bob used to say, money doesn't come to you from your job or your business. It comes through your job or through your business.
I never got that for the longest time, but I get it now. But
Yeah. He's basically talking about circulation, right? Or basically from spirit itself. See, when we think, oh, all I can get money is from this one way, right? And wealth, we confuse wealth with money too. Wealth can mean a lot of different things. A peaceful mind, for one. Yeah, it can mean a lot of things. Yeah. So this is where confusion can kind of distort you of your essence of who you are. And when you think wealth is just money, and when you think there's one source to earn income, and we're even talking about the law of cause and effect, which is one of the biggest universal laws where, there's a cause and there's an effect that happens because even based on your own thinking could be, adapted to law of cause and effect. So, and something else you shared about money being the master of you. See, a lot of people get uncomfortable when you talk about money, but you think about it all the time. So we're going to talk about a little bit. You want to be the master of it. Never let money be the master of you. And that really talks about your own richness, because money is simply an amplifier of who you really are. If you're a good person, you want to do more good in the world, it's going to magnify or amplify the essence of who you are. Now, if you're a person that just wants to keep all the money and what was that? DuckTales. There's a cartoon where he had this big old vault. He's a rich duck, and he used to dive into his golden coins and swim in it. He just liked keeping all the money to himself, and he's happy, right? So if you're that type of person, you'll just amplify that version, right? And of course, we can always change. Personal growth, change is inevitable, but personal growth is a choice. So you can choose to change, right? So really thinking about that, never allow money to be the master. You become the master of it. Use it. And what's interesting about money, it's highly measurable down to the penny, right? And this is also connected to a lot of things about your paradigm. We talked about, on many different calls, but it discusses your limitations, how you see yourself, right? Because the money that you attracted is even like your subconscious limiting thoughts based on that. So I don't even know how I got to that, but Lou shared something. Yeah, that was it. Letting money be the master of you. So, and then he shares here in the next paragraph, when once this principle becomes clear to us, we shall see that our attention should be directed rather to the giving than the receiving. Give and you shall receive. That's a mindset of abundance rather than lack. There's two different sides, the law of polarity, lack mindset or abundance mindset. So when you're giving, you're actually giving to yourself. What do you think these calls have been? We're giving, and we're very excited doing it. We feel awesome after it and before it, so we're giving the knowledge that we became, very passionate about, but not only just knowledge, it's the change we see in others. And what happens when you're able to help other people? it's you receive it. It's a beautiful design, isn't it? It's inevitable, whether you're aware of it or not. But now, since you tuned in, you're aware of it, right? So anybody want to share on my long I'm trying to magic loop here.
I know sometimes I can feel myself. I say, where were these words coming from? They just, but
Spirit.
what I wanted to say is we're talking about opulence and really about the law of circulation. So the principle of the law of circulation, whether you're sharing ideas, resources, knowledge, money, support, it's from keeping stagnation. You just don't want things to stagnate. You want it to always be in the flow. Always think circulation. Again, just like when the doctor checks, right, your pulse and your uh, what is it? Not your blood temperature. What is it? Your blood pressure. Your blood pressure. He's checking the circulation in your body, and this is why we're here. We enjoy so much when we get off this call. We always hang out for a few minutes and talk about how much we enjoy doing these calls because we enjoy so much giving and sharing. And this is what it's all about. Imagine if we just stopped, everyone just stopped sharing, everyone just stopped giving. What would happen? What would happen? Everything would start to dissolve and disintegrate. Everything would start to rot if we didn't give water to the plants, if we didn't, give love and energy to our children. What would happen? So we must keep the law of circulation going, and it's all about really giving. And from giving, you do receive. When we give, we receive. We receive so much joy. When we hop off this call, I mentioned we have these conversations. We really enjoy it. I get so much. That is psychic income. That's psychic income. That giving builds up my confidence. It builds my skills. I walk taller. I speak better. This is also what I receive, let alone income from business, but I'm just talking from the psychic income from giving. You just feel better. You just feel so good giving. I always, when I donate, you get these letters from different schools or, I'm a big animal lover from animal shelters and whatnot. It feels good just that they acknowledged and they said, thank you so much. With your donation, we were able to purchase X, Y, and Z. That feels good to me. I feel like a better person by doing it. And so it's a giving and receiving. Everything's about giving and receiving, and we are the center of distribution. Just think of that. Always giving, right? But also give to yourself too. Give to yourself time. Don't burn out. Give to yourself time. Give yourself love. Give yourself acknowledgement. Give yourself a pat on the back because sometimes no one else will do it for you. Right? But acknowledge yourself. Acknowledge your strengths. Acknowledge who you are. Acknowledge your dreams. Acknowledge your action steps. It's really, I mean, I know I'm going off a little off course here, but it's such a beautiful life. And to be stuck in lack and scarcity and fear and limiting beliefs and self-doubt, you're the only one that can fix that. You're the only one that can say it's time for a change. But you do need help. That for sure, I know. You do need help because it's your own thinking. It was my own thinking that kept me where I was. I needed someone else's elevated thinking to help me see where my limiting beliefs and self-doubt and scarcity thinking was. I needed someone else to help me do that. But I had to make the decision and I had to do the work and I continue to do it. I continue to step out of my comfort zone. I continue, whether my hands are shaking and whether I'm stuttering, I still continue to do what I need to do. But that's the whole beauty of life. It's not to live perfect. There's no such thing. If it's perfection, it means life is done, right? There's no need. You've finished it. It's perfect. No, it's the roller coaster. And when you can look at life as a roller coaster, it's always bringing you in all different directions to help grow you. I just posted on that. What did I just post? You lack nothing. Use what I gave you, and it's signed by God, right? You lack nothing. Everything is within you. Everything is a state of mind. So take advantage of the powers that you have that's within you. That's it. Okay. Next.
I love, there's something that's really important for everyone, and something that Lou said, and that is to, fill yourself up as well. Like if you're not full, you can't give. So you do have to, take the time to fill yourself up as well, before you can give, because some people, they're just drained and you have nothing left to give, right? So you do have to be kind to yourself. You do have to look in the mirror and speak good to yourself, and don't be harsh on yourself. But remember, all this, it begins in the mind, and by thinking generously and realizing, there's no lack in the universe. And so, you start acting from a place of abundance, And we're not just talking about, material wealth and dollars and things like that. There's so many ways in which you can give. And when you do that, then you really do align yourself with these universal laws that attract prosperity. You do get it back. It does come back to you. Maybe not from the source that you're expecting, but it does do. Things do happen. Things do come to you, and suddenly, and you'll realize that when you start, living this way. So thank you for bringing that up, Lou. That was really, really important. Jamel.
Yeah, it's all important. Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Lou. Let's set this plane to a landing, right? So I'm gonna share the very ending here that really stood out. It's the last paragraph. Thomas Troward says, "We must look upon ourselves not as misers' chests to be kept locked for our own benefit, but as centers of distribution. And the better we fulfill our function as such centers, the greater will be the corresponding inflow." So let's focus on being a center of distribution. That's the whole spirit of opulence. That's what he's talking about here. And it's so essential to understand that giving rather than receiving, you become what you want to be. Right. So, and getting uncomfortable, obviously that's part of growth. And Lou shared a lot there. You're not alone. Like, look at us. You attracted us. We're spirit. You're spirit. This is what your spirit desired. This exact conversation in this moment of your life. I'm a strong believer. Nothing happens by accident. And reading this, it even hammers home the truth, So know thyself. If you don't, you continuously remain lost, And again, this is stuff we needed help with. We attracted it for ourselves, for us to grow and to help other people, So we're more than happy to help you, more than happy to speak with you and get to know where you are and where you want to go. This is just a small part of understanding who you are. It's an hour and 5 minutes, just an hour and 5 minutes of knowing who you are. Imagine you tapping in on a higher level and understanding who you really are. This is huge. And then, you're tapping into unlimited potential and your true richness. So having a spirit of opulence, tapping into something that's unlimited, imagine what you can create and the impact you'll have. But you always have a choice to set a call with one of us, whoever you gravitate to, whoever you want to speak to. You know, our links are in the description. Set a time, and we're looking forward to it. And we'll see you next Sunday. And we have a huge announcement. Should we announce it? No, we'll announce it right on camera when Alicia is here. All four of us. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be really good.
Yeah, because today actually ends the discussions on the articles that we study, and we're going to continue Coach's Corner with something very special that we'll hold to ourselves until we'll say it on camera, and then we'll just dive right into what we're going to discuss because it's extremely powerful, and we're all excited about it as well. So, any last words here? Anybody, or are we done for today?
I have a last quote from Troward. He said, "The spirit of opulence is the spirit which recognizes that we live in a generous universe where the only limit is the limit of our own faith and vision."
Lovely. I love
And
that.
I'll do this last one. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Wow.
Just saying.
End on that. Yeah, we'll end on that. Amazing. We'll see you next Sunday. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.